This is Diane Lee from Teach Pre-K, and I got a lot of response about my last video. So I wanted to do a little follow-up on gentle parenting and just bring up a couple of reasons why it does not work in a preschool setting all the time, and some things that teachers can do and ways that parents can help with maybe modifying some of the gentle parenting techniques they're using so that they translate a little bit better to school and it's easier on their child when their child gets to school. Um, I I think that we are all as parents trying to do our best. I know that when I had my kids, I started 31 years ago. I've got a daughter who's 31 and one who is 28. Um, I grew up in an era where there was a lot of spanking and hyper authoritative parenting. Kids had no say. Respecting the child was not a thing that was even considered. It was very shaming and punitive. So when I became a mother, I wanted to um, parent my children in a way that was a lot more positive and affirming. I didn't want yelling. I didn't want to ever use spanking or anything physical because that was used on me constantly. And me not being parented in a way that was kinder and took my feelings into consideration and actually saw me as a separate person, um, it was hard. I mean, I had to do a lot of reading, a lot of researching, and I will also say that my first daughter was very, very, very strong willed and the opposite of a compliant kid, which has served her so well in her life. But it's really hard when you've got, a toddler and preschooler. Um, that's just really hard to be around. And it's really hard to discipline in a way like a lot of things just didn't work. So I tried so many different things, and I always tell my parents at back to school night that the reason why I can do my job and I have the patience that I have is because I had a very, very difficult child, and I had to learn lots and lots of different ways to parent her in a way that was respectful but didn't make me as a parent feel absolutely defeated. It was difficult because a lot of people commented and said, what research have you done? What experience do you have? Well, I have 31 years of being a mother and 15 years of being a preschool teacher, and I've had all kinds of kids. I have had kids with stage 4 autism. I've had neurodivergent kids. I have had kids with some severe behavior problems, selective mutism. I have had kids that don't speak English at all, and I've just watched them grow and flourish. I've had some super defiant kids. I've dealt with a lot. Lots of ADHD. I don't even think of ADHD as something that is a thing. It's like I'm ADHD, so I feel like it's normal. It is normal. All ways of being are normal. We're all just different. So this new idea of gentle parenting is funny because I don't really consider it new. A lot of the gentle parenting are techniques that I used when my kids were little. I respected my kids. I validated their feelings. I treated them with respect. I listened to them and I gave them choices. However, I took that gentle approach and I coupled it with a little bit of authoritative parenting techniques because I actually sought professional help with my first daughter because she was so difficult. And you guys, I came from parents that parented in a really harsh way, and I didn't want to do that. And I didn't, you only have your lived experience. So I got some professional help, and, you know, the psychologist I went to was the one that told me that I needed to use a little bit more of the authoritative approach along with that gentle parenting. Well, we didn't call it gentle parenting then, but that it was possible for me to do that and to combine those two things. And I did. And I have the best kids ever. They are wonderful. They were, well liked by parents, teachers, and kids all throughout their school career. Kind, responsible, like awesome humans. It was hard. It was really hard. Parenting is really, really hard, but it is possible. So in the classroom, when you've got, I've got 12 to 16 kids, one class of 12 kids, one class of 16 kids in a confined space, I have to have some really clear and consistent rules. I am firm but gentle. All of my kids know they are loved. I am silly with them. I respect them. I am respected by them. I feel that I have found a way to really balance all of that out so well. Is it still hard? Yes. Do I have some kids that I'm still pulling my hair out over some days? Of course. However, I really feel like taking any parenting technique too far is not going to be good. And I think I said exactly that in my last video. So I did more research on gentle parenting, and I'm like, okay, this is what I do. This is what I do. Oh, but I can't do that. So the encouraging autonomy, super important. Choices, really important. Validating emotions, really important. Making choices based on all those emotions, not always possible, especially in a school setting. And there's a lot of, putting lunch out and the child can eat when they're ready in the gentle parenting, not forcing compliance in all things. You really can't do that in a school setting. You've got safety concerns of the other children in the room. You've got time constraints. And you've just, you've got structure. You've got to have structure or you're going to lose control. You've got so many kids. So the whole part about waiting until a child is ready to make their choice or whatever that is, it doesn't work because I've got 2.5 hours with each of my classes and we do a lot. It's a lot of fun, but we do a lot and we've got to keep it moving and we've got to maintain our schedule. I have a visual schedule. I give warnings before every transition. These are things that are super important. I think they're important at home too. Maybe not the visual schedule so much because home is a lot more fluid, but giving warnings like, hey, you're going to have to stop eating when this timer goes off, or you've got about 3 minutes. Kids don't really know time, so if you can get like some kind of visual timer for them that they can hear or see, so that they know a change is coming and that's when we're going to eat or whatever, super helpful. And if you do that, it's gentle and it's going to help with being at school too. So parents and teachers can do very similar things and really work together to prep kids for preschool and school beyond, and just make it a good experience, right? And still have things be really good at home. So I would say what works instead of all that waiting until ready and choices based on feelings is to, use firm and gentle guidance, such as it's time to clean up. And then maybe throwing a choice in there. Do you want to clean up at the Lego table, or do you want to come with me and clean up the markers? You could also, when it's time to go to circle time, if you've got a reluctant child, you can give them, like let's say their favorite animal is a frog. Do you want to hop like a frog? Should we both hop like frogs to the rug to start circle time? Should we all do it? You could do that. But sometimes, as a teacher, because of your time constraints and because you have so many kids in your classroom, I have to say, hey, you can walk over here all by yourself, or even hop like a bunny if you want to, or I'll help you. Or my aide, Mrs. Saber, will help you. That way they're still having a choice, but the choice is pretty immediate and it's only what I want. Their feelings aren't really entering into the choice because that's not logical outside of the home environment. I mean, that's what I think, at least. You guys, I've got notes. I know I did a lot of homework on this. Also, in a classroom setting, there's some safety concerns, and this, I'm thinking mostly around anything happening that's physical and unsafe, like throwing blocks, hitting, biting, pushing. Kids are not very good at using their words, and they will resort to physically attacking another child or group of children instead of using their words. We are there to guide them, to get them to that point. But when we see something happening that is unsafe for any child in our classroom, as a teacher, we don't have time to negotiate feelings and emotions. We've got to step in and say, hands are not for hitting in this classroom. We keep our hands to ourselves. We might have to physically remove a child off of another child or from an area to get a behavior that is going to be harmful to someone else to stop. That is just what we're going to have to do to keep the room safe and secure for everybody. So my thought is, instead of completely, there's this thing with avoiding punishment in gentle parenting. I don't like punishment either. I don't think punishment is super effective, but you've got to use some logical consequences. Like if somebody throws a car at somebody else, removing the child from that area and then saying, I have to remove you from that area because when we throw those toys, they can really hurt somebody. You can't play here for the rest of circle time. Come on, let me show you what's over at the sensory bin. I don't want them to feel any shame for their actions, but I want them to understand their action has a consequence, that it can hurt somebody else, therefore they cannot play there until tomorrow or for 10 minutes or whatever you decide that it is, right? To me, that is just logical. We also are there to teach them self-regulation. We can name their emotions, teach them about emotions, but there's a difference in naming the emotions, teaching about the emotions, and indulging in acknowledging every single feeling and emotion a child is having. If you have a class of 12, 16, 14 kids and there's 2 of you or 3 of you, there aren't enough people to sit there and validate every single emotion. And are all emotions that a child is having really worth validating? At the time, no. Can you talk about all their emotions and teach them about their emotions as you teach them self-regulation? Like, the deep breaths when you're feeling angry or frustrated, or, a lot of times if a child is having a hard time, I'll put them, if we're in circle time, I'll have them hold on to my foot or touch my leg or sit on their letter or something that makes them feel grounded. Or let's all just take a big deep breath in and let it out so slow. Oh, let's take a big deep breath in and let out all the feelings we're feeling. And let's all find a place of calm. We can do things like that, but we need to maybe like think about, if you're a parent that's indulging in all those emotions, just reeling that back a little bit. Um, I know, I know that gentle parenting, there is boundaries, but someone wrote a comment that I loved so much. Boundaries first, then the feelings. Boundaries first, then the feelings. And I really, really liked that. You've got to think about and enforce those boundaries. Then we can get into talking about the feelings. Also, sometimes the emotions are up here, and you've got to remove the child or get that boundary set up about throwing the toys or biting kids or hitting. Get to a calm place, then we can process those emotions that led to the biting or the throwing or anything like that. Also, in gentle parenting, there's some emphasis that is put on negotiating limits and negotiating rules. In a group setting, you guys, that is not even a possibility. My neighbor across the hall from me in my school neighbor, my favorite teacher in the world who teaches the 2-year-olds, just says, I don't negotiate with terrorists. I don't either. You can't. You have to have set rules. One thing that I do in my classroom that really helps is, as I'm going around the room and I'm explaining the free choice centers to the kids, like, this is what we have in the sensory bin, I give them a reminder of how to play in that area. Just quick couple word reminder. Remember, the rice stays in the bin. Should we throw rice on our friends' heads? Should we dump rice on our heads? And they say no. So I'm giving them a reminder of how they should play. Over at the block table, can you just grab a toy from someone else? No, what else could we do? Hands raised. We could ask for a turn, or we could wait till they're done. Yes. If we're angry or frustrated, should we throw a block at somebody? No. Why? Oh, we could really hurt someone. Oh my gosh, you guys are the best. Dramatic play. Should we just dump everything out and make a big mess? No. Why not? We need to respect everyone else's play space and the toys in our classroom. That helps so much. You keep it short, but you give them those reminders before they get to those centers every single day. You guys, it's going to cut down on so many behavior issues. And I think stuff like that can be done at home too. I'm not going to negotiate those rules. Those rules are set in stone. That's how it is. That's how we all have to behave so that we all have a good time. So over validating those emotions, I'm going to go back to that again. One thing that does is it can lead to a sense of entitlement and a sense of frustration for the kids because they're not going to get that at school. No matter what school you go to, if there are state ratios of kids to adults, there are not enough adults and there are not enough minutes in the day for somebody to be validating all those feelings and emotions. As teachers, if we are taking a correct, respectful, gentle approach, we always validate kids' feelings when they're sad. We get to know our kids and have a relationship with our kids so that we figure out things that are going to make them feel better. But we have got to move from one thing to the next. We have a lot that we are required to teach these kids and that we want to put into the experience of preschool and school for these kids. So, I'm good at saying, I know it's so hard when we have to stop playing and clean up, but we get to do so many fun things when we're done. So let's hurry and clean up and I'll help you. Or come here. Do you want to be my extra big helper today? Here, will you take this and put this on that shelf? So there are things that we can do. We can use that redirection and stay positive and stay loving and stay kind and keep the validation short and sweet. We can keep it but we can't indulge it. We just can't. It just isn't possible. And you guys, that's what I did in my own home too. I didn't spend a ton of time validating those emotions and those feelings. And like I said, I've raised some really amazing, well adjusted children who are now adults with jobs and, having a lot of success in their life. Um, you guys, also, we can't negotiate our limits. Our limits are our limits at preschool. Um, they're just there just isn't time for long conversations about every single thing that's going on. Every rule that we have cannot be negotiated. We have to get done what we have to get done. And if you are in a good preschool, you are in a preschool where the teachers know how to be loving, kind, respectful, and gentle, but have clear boundaries and rules in their classroom so that everybody has a good day. Um, I've had to work really, really hard to get my class to where it is, all of my classes, and to get my classroom management techniques to where I know they're going to work. You always have to tweak for individual children and for individual circumstances. But I know that the kids come to my class and they are happy, they are loved, they know they're loved, they feel secure, they know what's going to happen next. We use visual cues, we use verbal cues to let the kids know what's going to happen. Like I said, I try to repeat our rules and have them reviewed short and sweet on a daily basis. I do explain a lot of reasons why some rules are the way they are. We walk down a very long hall to go to the library. We are quiet in the hall because the older kids are listening to their teachers. If we're too noisy, they can't learn and they can't hear their teachers. They get it. And every time before I leave my classroom, I'll say, "Why are we quiet in the hall?" And the kids tell me why we're quiet in the hall. And you guys, I have the quietest class in the hall all the time. We're silly. We do chicken, airplane, soldier. We do fun things, but we're not noisy and disruptive to the rest of the school. You can make things fun and still have rules. You can be respectful and validating and still have rules. I think rules help kids feel more secure. Okay. Also, as teachers, we need immediate cooperation. We don't just need understanding. Like, when we say it's time to go, it's time to go. When we say we've got to put coats on, we've got to put coats on. Sometimes I will just explain to my kids, "Hi, look at my phone. Do you see this number? Do you see how it says 22 degrees? That means it's super cold. We all have to wear coats and we all have to be zipped up today. Do not ask me to take your coat off on the playground because this is 22 degrees means freezing cold." And I just tell them right away, I don't negotiate. Don't come and ask me. I will not say, "Yes, you can take your coat off." I will not, let you run in the hall. I let them know. So I feel like the kids in my class, they have clear rules. I enforce them consistently. I remind them of those rules consistently. I validate emotions, but I do not dwell on them, and I do not let those feelings or emotions dictate what we do in the classroom or what we don't do. I have choices, but the choices that I give the kids are things that I want and things that I am happy with. It's just how it has to be because I am the one that has to make sure that things don't devolve into chaos in my classroom. So I will also use natural consequences. Like if a child is really being obstinate and they don't want their coat, we go outside, they're freezing. I'm like, yeah, it's a little bit cold out there, but the sun is shining. I know, but it's still 32 degrees. Yeah, maybe we'll bring our coat next time. I don't know, or I'll say, do you think maybe we should get your coat? And we get the coat. So that's a natural consequence. Usually, like if there's fighting over a toy, the toy goes on toy vacation and it has to take a break. Or like if a kid is being destructive in a center, they'll have to leave the center. That's a logical consequence to bad behavior in that center. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm saying teachers use a gentle approach that is logical and keeps your classroom safe and secure and helps all the kids feel secure and keeps you on your schedule and ready to go. Parents, this is what I'm saying to you. Maybe cut the negotiation down. Maybe don't like dive into every emotion, and every emotion does not need to be validated. It's pick and choose, and it's finding a happy medium. And I believe with all my heart that an authoritative style and a gentle parenting style are the best styles to use for kids, period. People talked a lot about, they said, I think what you're talking about is permissive parenting. No, I was talking about gentle parenting run amok. I definitely know what permissive parenting is, and I see it with some of the kids in my school, and I see that there are pros and cons to that as well. But what I really wanted to touch on was the trend I'm seeing in gentle parenting and explaining why it's not going to work once your kids get into school. And maybe if a few more parents see this, they will realize that there are ways to still be that gentle, amazing, respectful, validating parent without going nuts, without taking it too far so that a child cannot function as well when they get to school. I'm just trying to marry the two. Like, let's make what you're doing at home and what teachers are doing at school gel a little bit more so the kids, because that's what we all care about is the kids, so the kids have a better experience and have lots of love and security in both places. So thanks for listening to my follow-up. I promise I'll have a new topic next week.